our next step, and we will talk about screening. Screen for intersection readiness is the topic that we'll discuss. And I think that the message here is that hiring just pure specialists isn't enough anymore. And I think we touched on it earlier in the conversation that many companies look for, brilliant candidates, and obviously that's great on paper. But how do we screen these candidates to ensure that they bring value to the business and that they are who we want them to be? Working in recruitment myself for over a decade, I certainly have interviewed a lot of people as well, and candidates are becoming more and more savvy how they present themselves and how they sell themselves to us, and they tell us what we want to hear. So how can we update our interview processes to make sure that we assess the skills the right way and we bring people who can do the job and not just sell themselves on doing the job? So the question for us all here is, how are interview processes evolving? How can a scenario-based interview help companies assess whether a candidate can operate in a high-load reality where security and delivery speed have to coexist?
Yes, actually, I calculated how long it will take to first mentioning the AI topic. So now we're starting with that, right?
Yes.
So this changing the market in all the aspects. And if you're talking about the interviewing or screening of the candidate, I think the best skills we have to look for is that if the candidate can migrate to this new approach of work, when she is not a contributor, a single contributor himself or herself, but a leader who can work with agents and work with artificial intelligence as his team or her team. And then this is a huge change in the way of thinking. And as the AI becomes a big part of our life and a big change in our work, in how the engineering or not engineering teams are working or will work in the nearest future, we have to keep this in mind. And while talking to the candidate, we have to understand, will this guy migrate to this new way of thinking and the way of his work? Will he be able to be a leader, to be a team leader, or she is stuck on the single contributing tasks? Because nowadays it changed a lot. So I would put this in first place. And the second thing, I would like to talk to the candidate and understand his kind of thinking. How does he think about work, about life, about balancing things, to evaluate not the technician, but to evaluate the worker, the person, and to understand how flexible he is and can he adjust to the new requirements. Because in our life, particularly in SOFTSWISS, everything changes all the time. So the new challenges comes every day, new requirements come to the market, new regulations and everything. And the people, they have to be very adaptable. They have to be very flexible and open mind. And they have to basically get this, pleasant of work, even if this is chaotic and changes all the time. So I would look into the possibilities to be flexible and adaptable. This is the second thing I would really like to recognize at the very beginning.
Definitely, and I think that interviews now have to become a little bit more sophisticated to assess that.
Right.
Behavioral questions and scenario-based questions, they have to be much more to the point, because we see it certainly in talent acquisition that from time to time, not always, but we started seeing it more and more recently, the candidates during the interview are using AI tools to help themselves answer the questions. And what do we do with this? We cannot prove it for sure that they are using. Of course, they're giving us a wonderful answer, and perhaps sometimes this answer is just from their head and they are a great specialist. But I think we're a little bit more cynical than this, and sometimes, you know, the answer is too perfect. So how do we change the interview process? You know, how are we assessing to make sure that what the person is telling us is from their heart and from their head, and not reading from a tool or an AI bot that's on their phone next to their screen, especially now where all of our interviews happen online. We cannot, bring somebody in face to face like it used to be in the good old days before 2020. We have to be, I think, more savvy and definitely smarter about asking questions and how we ask questions during the interview process. What do you guys think?
I completely agree. Interestingly, I haven't personally noticed candidates using AI live in an interview scenario, but I guess for the recruitment, well, I guess for us as the recruitment interface, perhaps it's less of a guarded approach to what we would want to see to be evidenced for us to make a match with the job, the culture, the customer, and so forth. I mean, definitively, it's a problem. When you're looking at screening, I absolutely know it's happened to us personally. We without going into too much detail, we hired somebody who had presented a 90-day plan based upon allegedly what that individual had achieved in prior role. It was allegedly. Clearly then, allegedly, it was clearly by then time in the job evident that what one had said he had done and had evidence in this 90-day plan was fabricated. And unfortunately, we had to bring that to a head. But the point is, it's happening everywhere, you know. And so I think my suggestion would be, although you've just perhaps taken that away, Natalia, is to have people answer more questions in the live environment rather than, hey, send us your 90-day plan as to how you would build this business wherever it might be, because you will put that to ChatGPT and ask the question and it will come up with a very, very strong referenced business case. And it's very difficult, I think. So I think putting people more on the spot, how have you, how would you, and so forth. But if you're saying that people are now using AI live in that interview format,
they are.
I guess that is a concern, right? That is a concern. I don't know how you get around that, really.
Let's discuss that. Is it actually so bad that they use it? Because what we actually are looking for is the people who can invent something. So they are very, how to say, open-minded to the things which they are using. Of course, if it is not a fraud, I mean, if this is just a normal way of using of the instruments, like, you know, the calculators which were forbidden in my time of school studying.
Yes,
nowadays
exams, yes.
My daughter, she's using these on mathematics or on physics lessons. So, and the idea that it's probably just an instrument, and having a person in our staff who doesn't use the AI instruments, rather a bad sign for me, rather than using this during the conversation or interviewing step, etc. And maybe it should be open discussion where the candidate can say, may I use the AI tool? For example, when we're interviewing the technicians, they can use the AI tools. And for us, as the leaders of this employee in future, for us, it's most important, does this employee get the final result that fits our needs? Doesn't matter, would they use AI or not? So let's be, how to say, fair with this, right? So we cannot, how to say, contradict that.
Of course.
We cannot say it is unfair or whatever. We have to balance that, right? And we have to do this in the proper way. And openness in the approach doing this interview with the help of AI or any kind of these tools basically shows the openness of the company to the new technologies, to the new approaches, that we are not like really company which never allows something new or very tough with the rules and something which is printed on stone or whatever.
Of course.
So it also shows a company as their employer, which is open to the new technologies and to new approaches. So let's be balanced in this field, okay?
I agree partially. So here I think it's important that we reveal through the interview and asking the right questions if the candidate can exist in our business and is can operate safely and commercially and intelligently by themselves without using the AI tools. So of course, from a technical perspective, this is an advantage. And yes, if a person can use AI tools and they will be able to use AI tools during their job, then absolutely 100% agree with you here. But if we're talking about roles where AI tools are not as as much used, then we want to make sure that the person can think for themselves and is not asking all the questions to the AI tool, but actually we want to hire somebody for their own being, right? And so they can make decisions as a leader, as a business development specialist, as a marketing specialist, as a finance specialist, and they can make their decisions and do their work, not fully relying on AI tools, is my take.
I would agree. I would agree.
Yeah.
I think if the tool is used for polishing your own work, your own innovation, your own thoughts, your own experience, that's one thing. My concern, I think, Natalia, you highlighted is the start, is I am more skeptical now about, having had the experience I've had, for us personally, I am more skeptical now about someone having their own work. Is it their experience, or is it something that, ChatGPT or another tool has produced for them? Yeah, generated. And I don't know how you can prove or disprove it, is the honest answer. Very difficult.
It is.
Anyway, yeah. So,
Andy, your thoughts?
Well, it's an interesting one for me personally, because I've been in this, as Alistair has. We've been in this industry for a long, long time, and as you alluded to at the beginning, I think it is sad, frankly, that we don't interact as much in person these days as we used to. And I've had this conversation with many people on both sides, both as a potential candidate contact or on the client side. And I guess there is a view that the single source of truth is getting back to face-to-face conversation, because there's no hiding place. But obviously, from on the subject of talent acquisition or talent trends generally, I recognise how impractical that can be. You might invest in that, in face-to-face and interpersonal contact at a certain level, but you're not going to do it for every job, and it's unnecessary for every job. But by the same token, I do, and interestingly, I think increasingly, Sergey, your opinion is being shared, which is, it's a bit like the enhanced Olympics, isn't it? We've lived by certain rules for so long, but why push that underground? Why not embrace it? It is part of perhaps what we do day to day, and let's see how people react to it. I think, again, it's about balance, but I also think, and this is where I think from a employer or potential employer's perspective, there are probably lessons to be learned, which is, let's invite the product, and the output, but let's scrutinize it more closely. Let's really delve into, whether it's a 90-day plan or whether it's some code or whatever, or it's a questionnaire and technical questions have been answered. It's maybe the lesson is on the employer side to scrutinize, in learning and developing better interview techniques and more probing questions, and doing what Alistair has suggested, which is, sort of take that time away from them and just put them under a little bit more pressure to explain their own answers. because unless they've really invested in understanding what AI has given them, I suspect it will be fairly evident quite quickly whether or not they understand what they've written in their own essay, as it were.
So from our side, there is no sort of way of checking, and there is no way of being 100% sure if somebody is speaking from the heart or if somebody's reading. And I think you're absolutely right, Andy. And I think all of us agree here that we have to be a little bit more tough, maybe, during our interviews, and just focus on questions that will not allow the candidate to just read off of a script, but would make them think. So scenario-based questions and behavioral questions that will really make them dig a little deeper, that, you know, an AI answer couldn't really provide what we want. And but for sure, I think this is something that's a concern, and it's a growing concern, and we see more and more of it recently during our initial screenings with talent acquisition. My recruiters are coming to me all the time and saying, listen, Natalia, I have spoken to this candidate, they're great and their CV is strong, but I'm pretty sure that they were using AI during our interview. And the initial screening interview is about finding out the basics. It's not a tough technical interview. It's a conversation about, do their values align with our company values? Are they a good person? Will they fit into our business? What will they bring to our business? So for sure, I think we have to become a little bit more savvy and smarter when it comes to designing our interviews and asking the right questions during those times.
Agreed.
I would also inspire you to think in the way that if someone bring you a 90 days business plan, which he will then, after the successful hiring or employment, will implement this in these 90 days, and you get money in your business, is it bad? Because
not if they understand how to do it, yes. But if it's not their own experience, I would question how they're going to be able to implement the said plan, Sergey. That's a difficult one.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. If he implemented and you get the money, what is the difference for the business?
The end result is there.
The end result is there.
If the end result is there, I would agree completely, yeah.
Okay. This is a really interesting topic, and I think that it definitely requires probably a whole separate webinar to discuss, but